I love the I give up. Yeah, for sure. Reminds me of a certain player. Yes, maybe. All of Rob's frustrations in 30 seconds. Yes. So, needless to say, this is one of my earlier ideas. I don't know where this came from. No idea. No idea where this could have possibly come from. But the idea of creating a big bad evil guy specifically from somebody's backstory and then having that person not remember who the hell you're referring to anyway, and so the reveal falls down the toilet. That's the idea, and I don't know where it came. It just came to me. A muse. Came to me in a dream. Sudden flash of inspiration.
Are you sure this is going to work?
Well, no, I'm not 100% sure. I'm more like 85% sure. And my like 85% is more like you're 200.
Well, that's hurtful.
But that's just...
That's hurtful. I like that line because it was something that it wasn't in the script, I don't think, even up to like the final draft, 6th draft or something. I think this one went 6 drafts because it went through quite a bit of changes. And Adam added that, and I think it works to break up. That's a pleasant face, isn't it? It works to break up the thing. That's hurtful.
As good as you're gonna get, unfortunately. Crunch.
What are we doing?
You have to sacrifice your...
I love this. So let's talk about the setting here. We are in that church. This is another area of the church, and in fact, you can see it at around this point-ish.
Yes, we did it.
We did it.
What do we do?
You worked out my final puzzle.
There. So this back alcove here, we put up blacks in front of it, like black tarps, and blocked it out as much as we could, block out the light as much as we could. I think we managed to put up some black tarps in front of the stained glass. Try and make it as dark as possible with a single light source overhead. We had a plinth. We had the plinth that's already in there. I don't know if you can ever see it from behind. If they move out of the way, you can kind of see it there. Let's go forward a frame at a time, see if I can get a better glimpse of it. Get out of the way, everybody. You can kind of see it coming out there in this little thing. That's where the font is, the basin where they put the holy water for the baptisms and whatever stuff that they do in a church. You can tell I'm a religious person, can't you? So they had this font. And we just put a cloth over it, a wooden board on top of that, a black cloth over that, and then a bowl in it. And there was just like a spotlight on that. And then it was very tight spotlight with all of the shutters around it, so that it's like a quite defined light, not a lot of spill.
So kind to spare
Thank
me
you,
those
Myth, for the 100
coins,
bits.
Thank you.
It is the same church that they did the funeral episode for Board. Yes, it is. The Viva guys are quite friendly with the vicar, pretty sure. As he's a Viva La Dirt League fan, and he said absolutely walk in and do it. This is the thing that really made me feel like I had powers, supernatural powers, because I walked into a church of all places, a fantastically huge church, and I was like, "Can we lose the pews?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, powers." And next time I went in, the pews are all just moved to the side. I was raised Christian, and even I couldn't tell you that stuff. Lutheran or Catholic? No, it was an Anglican church, if that helps. A baptismal font? Anglican? I know that much. I know it was Anglican. Sup, Dead Aussie Gamer? How's it going? Best episode? You enjoyed this one, did you? St. Paul's Church. It's in town near, not too far from the Sky City. It's on Hobson? Andrews? It's on one of the main streets in the centre of the city. St. Paul's? It might be St. Paul's, I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, so we were in this little part. We had our own bowl on top of it because we didn't want to be like obviously risking anything happening to theirs. And initially, what was I even talking about that for? Oh, and so it was all like quite tight spotlight on it. St. Matthew's, I think it's St. Matthew's. That sounds more familiar. St. Matthew's rings more of a bell. I think it might be that one. And so we had the opportunity to have this effect where you're in the darkness and you step into the light, which we decided, let's utilize that. Let's have them starting just outside of the light, and then they step into the spotlight.
Sure this is going to work?
And it gives this nice little effect.
I'm not 100% sure. I'm more like 85% sure. And my 85% is more like your 200.
And what we wanted was for all of us to be around the basin, except for Crunch, who is just not even paying attention to the fact, because this is like the end of a dungeon, clearly, like our final trap, he says, and he took us longer than expected and blah blah blah. So it's obviously like the end of like a huge dungeon crawl.
Well, that's hurtful.
But that's as good as you're gonna get, unfortunately. Crunch.
And so Crunch is just like he's not been paying attention. However long they've been talking about this trap and deliberating over its effects and whether or not they've interpreted it right and everything.
What are we doing?
You have to sacrifice your blood to the bowl.
Now in the original script, it is a blood sacrifice. It made the most sense. You have to have blood of a furbolg, blah blah blah, and then I say, Keothi, for God's sake, cut him. And he grabs his hand and he cuts him. Ow! And blood drops into the bowl and blah blah blah. That was the one thing that the church had a problem with, because one thing that Christian churches are known for is like not using blood rituals in any of their magic, in any of their rituals. They certainly don't refer to the blood of Christ at any point. They don't have any Christian denominations that have like wine literally turning to blood in your mouth or anything like that. So like, blood is, you can't use blood, not in a church. It's very upsetting. Didn't that one guy sacrifice his son to himself? Won't get into that. But yeah, heard it here first. Christians use magic. I mean, any sufficiently advanced miracle is indistinguishable by magic. Isn't that the quote? There's only one blood that's okay. It's only when it's happening from within the church that it's okay to use blood magic.
I see you following me.
I'm pretty sure the wine is entirely symbolic. No, I thought so too, Batmerp. But the official, like obviously a lot of Catholics will make up their own decisions on it. But I heard more recently. I looked into it, and apparently the official explanation is that when you're taking communion, it is a wafer and it is wine, but when it hits your tongue, when it enters your system, it is literally turning into the flesh and blood of Christ. Literally. Not figuratively or metaphorically. It is literally turning into those things. It's written that it's changing in your mouth. So the one thing that they had a problem with in the script was we can't do a blood sacrifice. And I was like, okay, fine. I wasn't like, okay, fine. I was like, fucking blood and blood is the blood. It has to be a blood sacrifice. It has to be. You can't make it. And I paced around. I literally paced around my garage trying to make this work, and I was super pissed off. And I was like, it's gonna have to be fucking hair. Hair doesn't have the same effect, but it'll do in a pinch. So to get around it, the best compromise I could come up with was he asks for blood. And then I say, if it just requires essence of furbolg, a hair should do the trick. And then on top of that, there's already something in the bowl that we don't say is blood, but it could be blood. So it's I got around it by like indicating that it might be blood or whatever, but we never actually see him sacrificing his blood to it.
Oh. Why?
Because the trap requires the essence of furbolg.
Oh.
So the stuff in the bottom there, we never mentioned what it was, and this shot in particular was never actually a shot that we got on the day. This was one of the shots that we forgot to get. We didn't get like a close-up of the bowl itself, and so we had to do this in post, in lockdown. So Tom had to go out and get a dark cloth and a nice-looking bowl, and like put something in the bottom of it and shoot it at the right angles and light it and everything, all in his like garage or something.
Right.
And it, just so that we can get that cutaway of this happening and then the hair falling into it later. And I think it worked really well. I'm glad that he did so. I'm glad that he got it to work.
What trap?
Oh, for the God's sake. Keothi, pull his hair out. That should do the trick.
Doctor.
I love this. I love Ben's reaction.
Ouch.
The chat at the end really sells it. It would be like 10% as funny if he just said "ow," but for some reason it makes it like 10 times more funny to put that really slow ch on the end. Ow.
See, pull his hair out. That should do the trick.
Don't. Ouch.
This reminds me of nope. What's the Eddie Murphy movie where he like makes himself the Nutty Professor? It reminds me of the Nutty Professor. Doesn't he like there's something about a hair hitting the fluid and then he turns into Eddie Murphy. It reminds me of that one scene in that film that I clearly don't remember much about. What are they putting the hair on? I don't know what it was in reality, but it could be anything. It's like oil or blood or something. We never specified what it was. I never specified in the script what it was. It was just the last part of a trap. But it was required to be in essence a furbolg because it was the first hint that the final bad guy is linked to Crunch's backstory.
Yes, we did it. It worked.
We did it. Fighter didn't do anything.
What do we do?
You worked out my final puzzle.
I like that this works as both a reveal, and I intended it this way as well. It works as both a reveal of the final bad guy, but it also works as a reveal of Alan. Throughout the entire series so far, there's been comment after comment being like, "Where's Alan? Why is Alan not in this?" Or even some comments being like, "You can barely tell that barbarian's Alan. It's amazing makeup." And so it works on two levels, that it's like it reveals Alan as well.
Though I must say,
and then each of us, I loved this shot, and directing this shot was fun because we start in the formation that we were in to begin with, but all of us react appropriately to our characters. Crunch doesn't pay attention to the reveal and goes to the bowl. He's still like behind everybody else, just being like, "What was this bowl trap about?" And he goes towards the bowl. Whereas the rest of us kind of like get ready for a fight. The fighter, who is like the tank of the group, along with the barbarian. Top X banter, thank you very much. The fighter and the barbarian would be like the melee tanks of the group. So the fighter kind of pushes his way towards the front.
no puzzle.
Adam would never get far enough to the left for me. I kept like, I have to push past Adam, so I kept telling him like, "Can you step a little further to the left so that I can push through to get to the front?" And he kept forgetting, so at one point I literally had to push past him. Kyoti's like, he just gets ready for a fight, but the one thing that I really enjoyed most is that Phoenix's character sort of disengages, as it were, and hides. She like deliberately steps back and hides behind. She steps back into the side and just like hides behind the barbarian as a halfling rogue. Watched the trailer. I knew Alan was coming. I was so excited. Did not disappoint. Yeah, it was pretty cool. People thinking Emmett is Alan. Yeah, the number of fans of Viva la Dirt League who don't know who the three guys are, because like the number of people in the comments for this one are like, "Adam's finally here, yay!" And I'm like, you how long have you been a fan of this guy that you're super excited to see him, but you don't know his name yet? Adam's finally here. Oh, where's Adam in all of this? And oh, isn't that? And at one point, I definitely read a comment that thought Rowan was Ben's character at one point. Like they thought, but Rowan was the one behind all of the cow makeup.
Though I must say it took you longer than I expected. I'm glad you didn't die to any of my traps. That wouldn't have been a satisfactory conclusion to your story.
Story's a link to the library thing.
Who are you? And what have you done with the children?
An excellent question, Damicus. Perhaps you'd like to ask Crunch.
What?
Yes, I'm sure that Crunch would love to fill you in on who I am and...
I love that. I love that we kind of like part to reveal him as well.
Crunch.
And you can tell that at the table, people have been like, "Yo, Ben. And he's like looked up from his phone and he's gone like, "What?"
Yes, I'm sure that Crunch would love to fill you in on who I am and who I used to be before the fire incident.
What is he talking about, Crunch?
Beats me.
Oh, I forgot.
Yes, you see, after the fire ravaged my library, I took the wisdom I had learned from the monks and vowed never to let naivety get the better of me again. And thus I became...
Bald. He totally looks bald from this angle. This is why the book, yes. So a few episodes ago, Faulty, as you've rightly pointed out, I said that there's a reason that the thing that cursed them out in the woods was a book. It's because the book has the theme of like stories and libraries, because this guy is the final boss and he used to be a librarian, and he used to work at a monastery with a bunch of monks where he trained the monk. He was a mentor that trained up Ben's character, the monk. It was all tied together. And if you go to episode 2, you hear, they're wearing the mark of Gredulo. Because in reference to Gredulo the Wise, the guy that they're following. The guy they're trying to, the main bad guy. I thought for a second he was wearing a bald cap. It definitely looks bald from this angle. The almost betrayal in your voice when you turn to us, Crunch. What is he talking about? So did Rowan and Britt's character die and that's why they're not here? No, they're not there because it's a West Matches campaign, and as we've seen in every episode, not all of the characters turn up for every session.
Gredulo the Wise.
And the rest of us who know that we've been following the main bad guy called Gredulo are like, oh, it's him! And then the music cuts as we see his dopey fucker face.
Yes. Never again would I be known.
So this was a very subtle thing here. You see he steps down. So where are we up to? 156. I can jump back. When we see a reveal of him. When is it?
Did it! It worked!
What do we do?
You worked out my final puzzle.
I'm not sure if you do these guys part more so you can actually see him a little better. That's nice framing, isn't it? So the locations for this, let's talk about location a little bit. Pain in the fucking ass, this one. God, I had such a vision in my mind and I found the perfect place for it, and it was absolutely perfect visually, and it was the worst thing possible auditorily. It was a perfectly spherical stone room with 4 pillars, and I had him just bursting into life in the center of this spherical stone room with torches on each of the 4 pillars, kind of casting, illuminating, and the rest of it was all. It was going to be perfect, and then the sound would have just been absolutely unusable. So we moved it around all over the place, trying to find a place that would work, and eventually we were like a couple of days from filming, and we had no location, and so we said, "Can we do it in a church?" And so I turned up to the church and went, if we move these pews, I suppose I can have them just like appearing magically in the center of it, which might work. There might be like a touch of humor there, that they're clearly not in an open space here. You can just about make out the fact that they're in like a small enclosed darkened room. And then when the trap goes off and lights the place up, they're just standing in the middle of an enormous hall. And the question has to be asked, like, how did they get there? Must have been magic. Must have been a magic trap. So anyway, we had this space, and I was trying to make it work. And then it was like, okay, so where's the bad guy going to be sitting? Where's his reveal throne? Where's his enormous throne that he's sitting on? And I'm not sure if you actually see like a big wide shot of it, do you? Kind of see some of it in parts. Do you see him like? It's all kind of medium close-ups as he steps down, isn't it? You can kind of see it behind him there a little bit.
Yeah.
So this whole upper area, I'm not sure what this place would be called in a church, the place where the choir sits and everything, all of that area, it's raised up behind where the podium's not the right word, the place where the pulpit, behind the pulpit. This is the steps up to the pulpit, and this is the steps up to where the book plinth would be, choir bench. Anyway, whatever this word is, this is all raised, but it's a little bit too deep into the, like, away from the action of the main hall. So I decided he wasn't going to be sitting up there. He was going to be sitting here. But I needed him kind of surrounded by a bunch of stuff. And it worked. But the reason I say all of that is that you can't quite tell without wides and things, but you can tell that there's a few steps. There's a few steps.
You worked out my final puzzle.
He has to come down like 3 steps to get onto the level of us. Sepulchre, that's a good word. Kepalakara. Never heard of that one. Sepulchre. Chancel? I don't know about that one. Whatever. So he has to step down a few steps. Now, simple shooting technique for you, a bit of film magic. A real simple one is, if you want to give a person status, if you want to make them feel like they're important, if you want to visually tell your audience that this person is powerful, you tend to shoot them from below a little bit, shooting up at them.
My passive perception is 20.
Alter Antacus, thank you for the follow. Posh carpeted bit, that's a good word for it, yes. I think they were trying for sepulchre phonetically. Sepulchre is a good heavy metal band. But no. So you shoot up at them at an angle as they've got status. And obviously, conversely, if you want to take away status from somebody, you shoot down at them. You're looking down on that person. And so, as he is revealing himself, he stands into a shot of power. He's standing up, and there's power in the shot.
Gredulo the Wise.
And he's expecting a huge reaction. He's expecting that power. And then as he loses status, as soon as he realizes that the one person he is wanting to have some sort of recognition there, the one person that's related, the camera immediately starts to walk backwards, reducing that angle at which you're looking at him. At this stage, we're still looking up at him because the DM still thinks that he can save it. He goes, okay, he's forgotten the name of the main bad guy that he's actually fighting for. So I'll hunt for maybe he knows who Gredulo the Wise is, but he hasn't yet tied in who I am, and he hasn't made that connection in his mind who this bad guy actually is.
Never again would I be known by my true name. So
I'll just spell it out for him. I'll tell him, oh, you know Peter von Stadbury from your background? That's me. You with me now? That's his idea here. But by doing so, he's had to lower himself a little bit. So I've had him step down onto the closer level to the camera.
Peter von Stadbury?
From episode 2, I believe, turn-based combat, you can hear Wizard with a throwaway line say, they must be after the von Stadbury hat. Because in order to turn himself into a lich, he's removed certain body parts of himself, including his heart. He's now a heartless necromancer.
No?
No.
You freaking kid! Crunch!
And then he's like, I can still save this. And he steps down one last time, and he's now on their level, and we're now shooting at him directly straight on.
It's good to see you again, old friend.
Oh, we've met, have we?
Are you kidding me? I'm your mentor. We have like 5 pages of backstory together. Your family, they died to the hag, and then, you were raised by a librarian.
Oh, yeah. That does sound familiar. Hey, wasn't there something about a centaur as well?
Something about a centaur? You've just been on a whole arc about a centaur.
From, I can't remember which episode it was, episode 6 or something, the cutting the rope one, where she was like, maybe because we've just spent the last 2 weeks hunting down a centaur tribe, and we're 2 weeks from anywhere where I could buy a new rope, because they've been hunting down a centaur tribe.
So are you kidding me?
Crunch, we literally rode here on centaurs.
Oh.
This is my favourite line. I don't remember which edition it came in at. I think it was like really late in the game. It might have been the last version of the script, or it might have even been on the day. But I decided this was going to be the funniest bit for him to be like, no, I wasn't here for that. It happened today.
No, I don't think I was here for that bit.
It was this session. I forget, roll initiative.
And then I love the idea of him, fuck it, and just throws a lightning bolt at him.
If you want to see how this fight plays out, be sure to subscribe to Viva la Dirt League for the last episode of D&D Logic. And if you want to watch us play actual D&D, we've got a whole channel dedicated to it. Viva la Dirt League D&D. Subscribe.
So it's not too much of a spoiler because he says it in the outro, but this is the first one where this is essentially a two-parter finale to the series. They are both still standalone, as all episodes of D&D Logic had to be. I needed to write them so that they would stand alone. If you hadn't seen any of the other episodes, you'd still enjoy it. But you will get the most out of both episodes if you have watched this one and then that one, because it does follow on directly from this story at the end of this fight. So that's what he's saying there. If you want to see how this fight plays out, that's what the final episode of the series is about. And so you do get to see a lot more of this amazing architecture, and more so all of the amazing set dressing that you can't quite make out around Alan. All of this stuff, we don't get a good wide shot of Alan in this episode, but we'll see it in the next. Alan's hand looked weird in that lightning bolt somehow, did it? So was any of this storyline derived from the table session you guys did before the series to get them familiar with D&D? No. First one is we don't know who the big bad evil guy is. The second one is damn, the big bad evil guy died way too fast. No spoilers. Will you supercut D&D Logic? Yes, we will. Yeah, I think the week after D&D Logic's finished, I think they're probably going to put a supercut up. I'm not sure. So last week will be the final episode of D&D Logic and Epic NPC. Yep. It's a bad week for well, next week's a good week. The week after will be a bad week for people's withdrawal symptoms. How did you guys do the sequential lighting? Was that a feature of the church? No, we that's a very clever piece of post-production kit. I know all the words. Boom. So we had stay exceptionally still, everybody. Turn on the lights, turn off the lights. Take a essentially stock footage of lights on and lights off, and then in post-production they can go through and they can fade from one to the other individually on each of the chandeliers, which goes some way to what I wanted it to look like, as I'll show you in the script in a moment. It's not exactly what I wanted, but it was a very good compromise from what I had in my mind for this particular episode. I wanted a smaller sort of chamber with torches flaming into life around them, as though they're almost like in a ring of fire. It looks good. I'm happy with it.
Yes, we did it. It worked.
Intended.
What did we do?
You worked out my final puzzle. Though I must say it took you longer than I expected. I'm glad you didn't die to any of my traps. That wouldn't have been a satisfactory conclusion to your...
Story? Yes, Giffen the Wood Elf. For about 2 months after I stream, they are available as a video on demand on my Twitch channel. But after that, sometimes they go up onto my YouTube page, but sometimes they're lost forever.
Who are you? And what have you done with the children?
An excellent question,
Where does the music
Damocus.
come from? Is it stock from somewhere?
Perhaps
I think
you'd
it is,
like
yeah.
to ask.
No
Crunch.
one specifically composes and performs it. I don't know if it's stock or whether they. No, I'm pretty sure it would be stock then, wouldn't it? What will you talk about on your streams the week after next? Well, funny you should ask that, Cake Ladder. So, on my Monday night streams, when I'm normally talking about the behind the scenes of the actual campaign that we're running, the week after we finish, and when I have nothing more to talk about, that is November 15th, I will instead be getting on Adam and Ben for a short rest interview stream where I'm talking to them about the campaign, and you guys can come with your questions and you can ask them whatever you want. And they can be open and honest about it, because for the first time since we started the campaign, you guys and them guys are all caught up. They know nothing really more than you do. So yeah, lots of fun stream there. So make sure to be there for the behind the scenes on the 15th. I'll be interviewing and talking with Adam and Ben, and then the next week after that, on November 22nd, it'll be. I will have the same stream time, but I will be doing an Ask Me Anything charisma check sort of a stream where you can ask me whatever you want about the Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and I will try and be as honest as I can, as long as it doesn't give spoilers for stuff.
What?
What?
Yeah?
No. No? Really? Still nothing?
Are you freaking kidding?
Breaking character? No, I can do this. He's a professional dungeon master. I can still salvage this.
Ah, Crunch! It's good to see you again, old friend.
Oh, we've met, have we?
And then he loses it. Loses his mind. What's the in-story reason why they will willingly walk into a trap? Because they got no other option. You hear it all the time in action movies and stuff. It's like, this is probably a trap, and they're like, we got no other option. They gotta go save the children. The children have not come into it before. I couldn't find a way to shoehorn them into it, but it was a good enough throwaway line for Damokos, and it gives Damokos a nice in-story reason to be like, he's the caring person. So obviously it's his first question to ask about the people in danger. Alright, let's go to let's go to the other window where I can I thought that was, if I closed it? No, it's open, so why are you not an option? Hello. Why can I not see my script, please? Now I can see it. So you have to change it sometimes before it comes up.
My passive perception is 24.
I see you following me. Thank you for the follow. Are the children the ones Ben left in the bandit camp? Could be if you want. So, this is the first edition of the script, and it changed a significant amount. I chopped out a bunch of stuff that was superfluous, that ruined the sort of pacing and flow of it. The main changes to the script, I think, were pacing from memory. So let's have a look. Interior dark dungeon anytime. You see, when you're doing a writing process, you can just write dungeon. It's up to Future Rob to find a fucking dungeon in New Zealand. Dark dungeon, any time of day. The party stand in front of a large stone wall with an ornate double door in it. That turned into a bowl. That turned into a... They stand around a plinth with a bowl on it. An ornate double door. On the door are a series of glowing arcane runes. In the centre of the floor is a pedestal with a shallow stone bowl on it. Okay, you're 100% sure that this is going to work. Not 100% no, but like 85 or so, and that's as good as we have right now. Barbarian, do it. Barbarian cuts his arm and lets the blood trickle down into a shallow stone bowl. As the blood enters the bowl, the runes glow brighter. The party collectively wince and brace themselves. And then the runes are extinguished and the door opens. Yes, we did it! We never doubted you for a second. Barbarian leads the way into the next room. Wizard rolls his eyes and then follows the rest. Interior of a throne room, any time of day. They enter an dark room, and torch sconces burst into flame all around, starting from the doorway and illuminating a large chamber. The light reveals an epic underground lair. I can just write these things. I don't have to... When I'm writing them, I don't have to limit myself to finding an epic underground lair. I remember reading this one to Ben, and he laughed out loud at this point, and I was like, "What?" And he goes, "I'm just laughing at your descriptions of and knowing from doing Dark Souls how much of this you're gonna have to cut back on." I was like, psh, that's future Rob's problem. Like 3 weeks out of shooting. I see where things went wrong with location scouting. Rob, fucking dungeon. A fucking dungeon is a very different thing. And, funny you should say that, Marie, if you search for dungeons in Auckland, guess what kind of dungeons you find? There's a lot of those dungeons, apparently. Way more than I would have thought. But no Dungeons and Dragons. There's a lot of different professional dungeon masters in Auckland. Past you was making it super difficult for future you. Yes, he was. Son of a bitch. I should go back and slap him. They enter a dark room, torch sconces burnt in, blah blah blah. Epic underground lair, and a shady big bad evil guy sitting in an ornate throne in the centre of a raised plinth. Big bad evil guy greets them with a sinister chuckle. Well, I must say, I didn't expect you to take quite so long with my traps. Really, Wizard, your reputation for puzzle solving has been rather overstated, it seems. Wizard looks sheepish. But no matter. You see, there was no way I was going to let my favourite students fail a test like this. Not when I could be there to give you a little nudge. He delivers this last work in a very pointed way, and there is a pause as we see there is no comprehension on the party's faces. No, after all that I have invested in your little band of adventurers, I couldn't let you fall to a few simple traps. You could say that wouldn't be a satisfying conclusion to your story. Again, the story clearly means something that the party isn't picking up on. Your story. Who are you? What have you done with the children? Ah, an excellent question, cleric. Perhaps you better ask Monk. They turn to Monk, who is stretching and not paying attention. That's right, I forgot. There's in my mind, every time that we see Monk in the background of a scene, he was going to be doing press-ups. He was going to be doing press-ups, star jumps. He's just always trained, like crunches, which is where he gets his name from. He was always just going to be working out. And that went by the wayside for various reasons, but I had it in my mind that he was going to do that, and it was going to be very fun. And that was before the stuff with Greg as well, yeah. Better to write down what you dream of rather than undercut yourself. Yeah, that is a good point, Ajo, because they're more often than not, I'm like surprised that I like write something down expecting pushback on it, and people are like, yeah, we can do that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Let's do that then. Better to aim for the stars. What is it? What is the expression? If you aim for the moon, if you miss, you'll still land among the stars or something. And then you'll asphyxiate in the vacuum of space while you simultaneously boil and freeze to death. That's how the expression goes, I think. Very different style of epic lair, yes. Past me borrowed a lot of money that present and future me have to pay back. Bastard. What a bastard, Womble King. The church was the same one they used in boards. Yes, same church for Adam's funeral. There are no stars between us and the moon. You don't know that, Fancy. You don't know. What do you know about astrophysics?
My passive perception is...
I'm the type of person where a future me bursts into a room and says, stop what you're doing, you'll regret it. I'd say, fuck you, future self. I'll make it even harder for you. Yeah, aim for the moon. If you miss, you'll asphyxiate in the void of space. Even if you hit, you'll asphyxiate in the void of the atmosphereless planet. We're getting off topic. Shut up. Who are you? What have you done with the children? Ask Monk. He's stretching and not paying attention. I pictured him just being like... what? Which we pretty much got, which I'm very happy with. Yes, I'm sure that Monk would love to tell you all about who I am. Or perhaps who I was before the fire incident. Monk is utterly lost. Big Bad Evil Guy's facade starts to slip, but they regain composure. Oh, for goodness... Yes, you see, after the fire ravaged my library and everyone I loved was left for dead, I thought it time to start afresh. So I took the wisdom I had learned from the monks there and reformed myself anew, vowing to never let naivete get the better of me again. And that is how I came to be known as Gredulo the Wise. He lowers his hood to reveal his face for the first time, smirking with arrogance. But his face drops from a smirk to confusion and then exasperation as he looks among the party assembled and there's no response. He starts to pace. I'm Gredulo the Wise. Yes, from that day forth I would never again be known by my true name. Dramatic pause. Peter von Stadbury. There is still no response. Are you freaking kidding? Monk, it's a pleasure to meet you again, old friend. We've met? Seriously? Loses his shit, dropping into a normal accent. I'm your mentor, Peter, from your backstory about the hag who killed your parents and then you were raised by a stranger. Is none of this ringing any bells? You gave me like 5 pages of backstory, dude. Yeah, that does sound like me. Wasn't there something about a centaur as well? Something about a centaur? You just went through the whole arc about helping the centaur tribe discover who was behind the attacks. Me! I was behind it all! Oh, fuck it, roll initiative. He blasts him with the lightning spell. So, lots of similarities. The main things that have changed are like I've just cut, I added something to the top to sort of solidify that Monk is there and he's not paying attention. I added that whole thing about the traps, took it from being barbarian to being monk. I changed up the pacing by just getting rid of some of this superfluous dialogue. Cut out a few lines here and there, and surprisingly, it went through quite a few different changes of all of that stuff. So even though it's in a pretty good place to begin with, it ended up as like a 6th draft or something. I love that you wrote loses his shit into the actual script. I mean, you gotta be descriptive. Can I say the dialogue is 100% what I imagine you saying running that scene as a GM? Thank you, Dad. Yeah. It's a great base, but I think the final product flows a lot better and more naturally for how the players might actually react, yeah. Which is what the editing process is about. I write it all down, get my ideas on page, and then we read through it, and I go, oh, that doesn't flow right, and I edit it for draft 2, maybe draft 3. I can usually get to like 2nd or 3rd draft on my own. And then there's like table reads and things where I'm like, okay, yeah, that hearing it aloud now, definitely we need to cut down some here and there, and it's taking too long to get to the punchline and all of this stuff. So that all comes out in the rehearsals and stuff. Have you ever had a player that inattentive? I don't think so. The Viva guys are definitely the worst culprits for not remembering pointed information about like who Kelethak is and things like that. Most people will remember the important points, and at the top of every session that I play with people, I will get them to do the recap. I will say, right, so we're going to start. Who wants to tell me what happened last time? By doing so, it serves numerous different purposes, but one of the most important for me is that it serves the purpose of telling me what they do and do not remember. I ask them, like, okay, where are you? Oh, we're in the goblin camp. Why are you there? Oh, because we were trying to track down a book. Okay, what book were you looking for, and why? Oh, it was the vampire's journal, because the paladin that we met from that town, whatever his name was, he told us. And then them saying things like that, where I'm like, okay, they don't remember the name of the paladin. They don't remember the organization that paladin was working for. They don't remember that the paladins asked them to find a book, but also a gemstone. So it helps me to know, oh, they've forgotten that bit, so I can then reseed that information as needed. And with the Viva guys, I don't get that luxury because we don't tend to do a recap at the start because of time, and also because we film for like 6-7 hours, and so I can't recap them every 3 hours like I would with a 3-hour home game. At least they remember Dirk, mostly. Imagine your first session back after lockdown, whenever it may be a bit painful with getting a certain half of the guys to remember what was going on. I'll definitely be doing a recap when we start again. 100%. I will be recapping the probably the whole story so far, just to make sure that we're up to date again. It's going to be a necessity. It's also going to help me to do so because I forget things as well. I'm not infallible. I'm a human with forgettable brain, and I've slept since then several times. So I'll get to the table and I'll be like, what was the name of that assassin that they left in the Honeywood jail? I can't remember. Sarah. Hey Mum, how's it going? Just saying hi, then off out. By the time you read this, I'll probably be gone. Just wanted to watch you for a while. Love you, Mum. No, I'm not actually behind the chat today, Mum. This is a different kind of a stream where we've just watched the latest episode of my D&D Logic series. The 9th of 10 episodes.
Are you kidding me?
This one.
I'm your mentor. We have like 5 pages of backstory together. Your family.
Oh,
A new
right.
adventure
So I'm watching on this episode, I watched the latest episode and I talk about it, sort of director's commentary, as it were. Mythical, thank you for gifting a sub to my mama. Gifting out 48 gift subs in the channel. Us viewers will have the best memory regarding the story because of the long break. Yeah, probably will, Vermouth, because for you guys it won't have been nearly as long a break between episode 69 and 70 as it will for us. Apologies in advance for when I finally save up enough points to play. I sometimes struggle to stay focused, so I might need a prod occasionally. It's all good, Sparrow. It'll be a different ball of fish, I was going to say. A different kettle of fish and a different ball game. Entirely, because it's a one-shot, and it'll be based around your character and your backstories, so your background for your character. So, different kettle of fish. Where does that expression come from? A kettle of fish? Is a kettle like a pot, not just a tea kettle? I suppose a tea kettle wouldn't need to be called a tea kettle if it wasn't. So it's just any pot to boil things is a kettle. Because we'll rewatch all the episodes until you guys can start film again. Yeah, that'll also do it. Cool, we're getting way off topic. Anything else? What questions do you have about this?
What trap?
This episode that we can talk about? A fish-shaped kettle in my mind. A kettle of fish. Will we be able to see them like the last ones? Thank you for the sub, whoever did that. Hi and goodbye. Will we be able to see them like the last? I haven't actually posted them to your to the family WhatsApp account, have I? I should do that. I'll write myself a note. I'll write it on the back of my hand so I don't forget. After the stream, I need to actually link my D&D episodes to my family so that they can keep up with what the hell I do for a living. D&D. I'll just put a D on my hand. Ow! This biro doesn't want to. I'm just going to carve into the back of my hand at this rate, like bloody Harry Potter. Sweet ref. Is it me or does Adam's character makeup sometimes look more white than blue? In certain light, yeah. Like obviously the light exposure and the white balance and things looks less blue.
Pull his hair out. That should do.
Look at them beautiful blackheads there on your nose. I've always had a problem with blackheads on my nose. Can't do much about it. Not this episode in particular, but what particular scenes or shots are you most proud of or exceeded your expectations out of the episodes we've seen? I really do love how... I really love that we got the chance to film here and have that shot. That's amazing. I also love the Goblin Camp, and I love the tents setup of Long Rest, if that's what it's called, where Keothi is arguing about a long rest fixing all of his wounds and stuff. I love that everybody's got their own unique tent and stuff like that. So that's probably one of my favourite shots from the series so far. Actually looking forward to the D&D supercuts. Be good to see the BTS for those. Yeah, I'll probably do a D&D supercut behind the scenes. I might put it as a challenge, a community challenge though, because they take obviously a lot longer than a single episode. What have you learned from the series that you'll take into new things you'll write? Good question, Cake Ladder. Good question indeed. What have I learned to take into new things? I mean, how do I put things in words? Obviously, I've learned things that will come up when I go to write, and I'll adjust the way I'm writing, sort of, without thinking about it. Off the top of my head, the things that I've changed the most are waffly dialogue, stuff that I've had to cut out in like third and fourth drafts after hearing them read aloud. The changes I have to make are usually mostly to do with pacing and just getting to the point a little bit quicker. Getting to the point of the joke. So that's a big one. What else have I got? Stuff that I've learned from this process. Trying to see the script, trying to see it playing out with all of the characters is going to be a lot easier for season 2 now that I've cast all of, like when I was writing these scripts we hadn't cast the characters yet, and so now that I have cast the characters and more importantly I've seen how they perform those characters, how they perform the dialogue and the sort of voices they put on and the mannerisms and things, it'll make writing the dialogue for them a lot easier. Did you have the plan B if you couldn't film in a church? Yeah, the church was a plan C. It was the third location that we looked at, I think. Fourth, maybe. So it was like plan C or D for the church. And no, we did not have a plan E. So if we couldn't film in a church, I don't know what we would have done. I wish this D&D logic will go as long as Board and Epic NPC series. Fingers crossed then, Human, as long as people still keep watching it and keep sharing it and things. It'll get a second season and a third season and a fourth season. There is a joke that I have set up in one of the episodes for first season that I intend to pay off in like fourth season. So I'm thinking about this in the long game. If we don't get to like a season 4, that joke will just never pay off. But that's the level of like planning I'm doing for this. Are there any locations you scouted that you didn't have a use for this time but be cool for next season? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's one place in particular that we couldn't film because of weather that I'm excited to film at some point. Was Plan B one of those Googled dungeons? No, that was for the after party. I remember the weather was really, really all over the show that weekend. It was, man. It was like turn up on the day because you don't know whether the weather report will be good or not. I don't know whether the weather will improve. Can you use it in a sentence? Name it. What was the set Plan B? So the other sets were there were 2 different locations on the North Shore by some old military base, an inside and an outside one, and then there was like the silos up on the north on the shore of the city centre. There's a few old like huge grain silos that could have worked really well, and then there was the church. Would have worked to go a bit meta. It might have been funny if when Alan breaks it briefly cuts to the real table that the players are sat at. No, I made the stylistic choice very early on that I did not ever want to see them at the table. Partly because there's already going to be comparisons made between this series and One for All, and I don't want to feel like I'm ripping them off in any way. They already have this style of like seeing them at the table and then playing out in the cutaways and things. I want my series to be entirely set in the game world because it's about the logic of the game of D&D to the people playing it, in their character, like how the difference between game logic and real world logic and why that plays out. So yeah, I made the call early on that we're not going to see them at the table. Now, who knows, maybe that changes at some point in a future season, but for now I don't anticipate that changing. The only thing that will change, the only person that we will potentially see at the table, is a cutaway of the Dungeon Master sitting behind his screen, but even that will be in the perceptions of the characters. They will look up to the ceiling and see him as though God, Monty Python style, peering down from the clouds or the ceiling behind his Dungeon Master screen. I might do that at some point because we found that in the first few episodes with Alan's Dungeon Master voiceover, it was a little bit unclear as to who was talking. And if we want to really drive that home, who's talking, then I might have to show the Dungeon Master. And there are a few of the episodes that I think it will only really play out because it's like the joke will be about the Dungeon Master frantically like coming up with stuff that he hadn't planned, and we might need to see like a cutaway of him up in the ceiling as God, just being like, oh, yeah, you can definitely go down the road to the next town, which is called Fish Fisher. Yes, Fish Fisher is the name of the other town. jokes like that we might need to see the Dungeon Master for. The other Logic series, we never see the players sitting in front of their screens playing PUBG or Dark Souls. Yeah, so not seeing the table here feels consistent with the other VLDL content. That was another active consideration of mine as well, is that it's in line with the other Logic series. Stop that grovelling, I hate it when they grovel. Who's grovelling, Fiza? I've only seen a couple of One for All, but it would be totally too similar to show the table. Yeah, probably. I'm also surprised you didn't do an episode based around cursed dice luck from experience. Too focused, I think, for a primary joke. Season 1 had to all be about like more broader jokes a little bit. Any chance of seeing more elaborate camera shots like drone shots and things? 100%, yeah. As the budget of Viva La Dirt League keeps improving, as the people keep watching and more Patreons come on board, and more people buy merch and all the other avenues of revenue, the more that they can afford, the more we'll likely see drone shots and camera stabilization. What are they called? The walking dolly shots and things with high tech auto stabilizing cameras and all that expensive jazz. I can definitely see that happening as the future of Viva. M Slice, thank you for the 6-month streak. God's reaction to Arthur humbling himself in Holy Grail. Oh yes. I see your it's been a long time since I've seen Holy Grail, I guess. And as they get more high tech, your fee gets bigger and better too. I hope so, Connor. We'll see about that. By the way, Rob, your rhyming last night was on point. Thank you, Hiram. All right, guys, I'm going to call it there. Thank you very much for coming to join me today.